Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Eileen Matola. I work for Haverford Township Recreation Department. Today we have Sangeetha Sambandan. Sorry, Sangeetha, you knew I was going to mess up the last name.
That's all right.
She's done a number of presentations for us before COVID. She did it live at the Crack. They're very interested and informative. We will be recording this. I already started recording. If you have any questions, you can always send them to me. My email is on our website, Haverford Township website, and I will also send everyone the recording. Since we've been doing, I guess one positive part of COVID is we now have a webinar library. So if you ever see any of our events, or I should say our webinars, we do record them. And if you ever miss something and are interested, I can always send it to you. I can send you the link. So without further ado, let me just tell you, Sangeetha has an unbelievable organic garden. She lives in Haverford Township. I did see it once. She gave me a tour of it, and that was really nice. I love that. And I hope everyone learns a lot. If you have any questions, you can just put them in the chat at the bottom. And Sangeetha, will you just look at it at the end, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she'll just answer it at the end. And without further ado, go ahead, Sangeetha. Thanks.
Okay, thanks so much, Eileen, for the generous introduction. Just a quick introduction about myself. I'm an architect by training. I work in the field of sustainable architecture. And this is just a hobby of mine. I did this certification probably around 8 years ago. And since then, I've tried to experiment, explore that on my own yard. And it's been pretty exciting, a lot of learning. So it's based on NOFA, the Organic Land Care Program. So I'll go through the slides. I'm going to go pretty quick because we have a lot to cover. And you will get the slide deck at the end. And at the end, I will share some of my own explorations. So hopefully that should be interesting as well. Okay, so basically, your yard, whatever you do on your property matters. This is a quick presentation outline. You're going to learn as to what organic land care is, how to landscape organically, and how to do organic landscaping based on the 3 basic principles: working with nature, learn to read the labels, and you feed the soil. Importantly, not the plant, you feed the soil. So these are the big takeaways, which I just mentioned. Again, it's based on Northeast Organic Farming Association. And this is, it was originated in the state of Connecticut. This is their mission statement to kind of extend the vision and principles of organic agriculture. And this is a definition of organic agriculture. And they have their training in more than 20 states now. And at one time, a few years ago, Haverford Township offered this training also through the CREC. And you can find a lot of information on their website here. So what is organic land care? It's sustainable, ecological, and organic landscaping. So you learn to build healthy soils. This is the most, the key takeaway and the learning, because often we just keep feeding the plant and not the soil. And further down, you'll see how it's a whole microbiome kind of system in the soil. And your organic practices will help build the soil health. What is NOFA Organic Land Care? There's some basic narratives or details about the system and why landscape organically. So what is a pesticide, the environmental risks and health risks? So we'll look at that. So hopefully we all realize that pesticides are poisonous. And I know it's pretty confusing out there. So all these which are listed here are pesticides. And you learn about like the synthetic pesticides. So this is some statistics of some experiments which were done in the state of Massachusetts, the survey. All right, so something to note here is just because a pesticide says non-toxic, you just want to like tread with some caution there, that some non-toxic pesticides are also toxic and will kill all the good guys and the good beneficial bacteria and fungi in the soil. One example of that is pyrethrin. So pyrethrin is kind of made from chrysanthemum plants. It's often labeled as a natural pesticide, but you do want to tread with caution. So important to read a label. I know it's often very confusing out there. So if it has like a EPA registration number, it is a toxic pesticide. Read the active ingredients, and often it's packed with other inert ingredients in the list of ingredients listed. And there are websites you can go and kind of gauge if you're confused. Like EPA has a listing of toxic pesticides. So just make sure you read the label and understand. And there's a lot of research these days to research to show, like in your blood work, all the toxic chemicals are absorbed. Now, this is coming from landscaping, but there's research to show, because I work in the built environment and construction, including like interior indoor air quality pollutants as formaldehyde and so many other toxins do get absorbed in the human, in your blood. So here is some guideline. So the NOFA system does allow the 25B labeled minimum risk pesticides. Some of these examples are listed here, like burnout, clove oil, citric acid, horticultural vinegar. I personally have used clove oil to get rid of poison ivy. It's worked great. And there are a ton of environmental risks too using pesticides. And this is another experiment which was done in Woodbridge, Connecticut. This is a Long Island Sound study as to show how like a non-point source pollution due to like stormwater runoff and stuff can get way down this into the ocean. And this is the depletion of oxygen in any like water body, how it like leads to the death of the sea critters, all coming off of stormwater runoff from yards and land, which use like excessive pesticides or any pesticides, not just excessive. Same idea here, where like a lot of sea life was I think washed to the shore due to like the death of like fish and turtle and shrimp in 2012. So here's more research from the past. So more reasons for organic lawn care. I know we are a country obsessed with lawns. We love our lawns, and yes, there's good reason to have lawns, but you can have a good lawn with natural like compost and other nutrients. So excess nitrogen leads to phosphorus growth in fresh water. Now nitrogen, when you say excess nitrogen, this is true for organic compost kind of materials too. So even if it's organic, you don't want to do too much. So too much fertilizer is too much, whether it's synthetic or organic. That's a good point to remember. So lawns can cause problems. Over time, I've really reduced the extent of lawn on my yard because it's constant upkeep required. Here's a breakdown of nitrogen pollution at the Chesapeake Bay. So how to do organic land care. Use nature's methods, pay attention to the whole system, ask why things, where things come from and where they go. And that's called like the cradle to cradle, like from the beginning of the product to the end use, the life cycle of the product. So by transitioning to natural systems, you get like greater biodiversity, increased organic matter, greater structural complexity, and increased metabolic stability. Here's an interesting slide which shows the depletion and how biodiversity has been lost to a great extent. So more biodiversity, you get like a robust ecosystem. It's like a total, I will share information about the soil food web, and it's a whole holistic approach to land care. And this is not just for like home gardens, it could be applied large scale. I know during the Obama administration, they were trying this in DC, at the mall in DC. Something to note is, so here are some points like more personalized to your home. Compaction leads to more weed growth in lawn. So you can try to understand foot traffic and relieve compaction by aerating your lawn, like doing it at least once a year, and fall is a better time to do that. So what we're talking is by aerating, you get like more air into your lawn, and that like helps like the good bacteria, not just a good bacteria, fungi, and all the good guys thrive in that. It's basically just the 5% of organic matter which kind of contributes to all the goodness in the soil. And at least every few years, it's recommended to do a soil test because even if you're doing natural practices, you may not necessarily need to do like a compost application. The pH level of the soil might be fine. And I'm just saying soil for lawns, but this is true for even foundation plantings. And depending on what the pH of the soil is, that's going to drive the available nutrients to be absorbed to your lawn or plants. So the soil pH does matter. So here's the soil pH, just an idea. Often people will try to grow like a lawn next to a oak tree. Lawn is never going to thrive because it's lawn needs like a more neutral pH of say 6.5 to 7, and an oak tree is acidic. It's much lower. So the tree is going to survive. So here we're talking about the soil food web. So your soil is alive. It's not just the earthworms. It's got beneficial nematodes, beneficial fungi, a lot going on there. So basically, yeah, so for your soil to thrive, you need to like do like more compost, more natural fertilizers, nutrients. And here are foods for like fungus to thrive, the good fungi, and here like bacteria, the foods which the bacteria like. Here are a few examples. Okay, so work with nature, feed the soil, not the plants. Healthy soil will feed the plants in return. So there's a whole cycle going on there. You feed the roots of the plants, and with the balanced pH for that the plants to thrive, everything is made ready to the plant to be absorbed, the root system, by the soil, the good guys in the soil. Here's an example of the root system of a healthy lawn. So composting. So I've done composting for the last more than 10, actually more like 15 years. And it's very easy to do. It's overwhelming to start. I think sometimes people feel overwhelmed thinking it's going to stink. My neighbors are not going to like it. There's going to be critters. We've had none of those issues. And this is the type of compost bin I have. And the more you kind of mix it, the faster you get the compost. I'm often during the winter not diligent about going and mixing and turning it around. So I get like 2 batches of compost every year, and I kind of clean it out over, let's say, like end of spring. So here are like things you can add for the brown parts and the green parts, and I usually do a 3:1 raw materials. Yeah. So like 1 part like kitchen food scraps to 3 parts brown stuff. And the brown stuff, what I do is usually like crushed up leaves. So every fall I kind of collect the leaves in a wire bin and store them. And this just put like every time you toss like a bin of kitchen scraps, put like 3 bins of crushed leaves or whatever brown stuff. And it's been totally fine. No smells. All good. So yeah, so follow the 3 parts is to 1 part greens rule. All right, talking about mulches. So over the years, I'm trying not to do even like tree wood chips as mulch. In the past, I have done that, and that is fine if you want to do. Just try to stay away from tinted and dyed mulch. But crushed leaves are a great mulch as well. When you collect your leaves, the only thing I would caution you, if you have a walnut tree, it's a bit of a problem because the walnut leaves and the fruit have a toxic chemical called juglone. So then it's a problem to like crush your leaves and use them because it is toxic and it's toxic, especially to vegetable gardens and stuff. I would not recommend putting that. But if not, like the leaves is like real great stuff. It's like dense with nutrients and you can use them as mulch. It's not often very pretty to look at for a front bed, for the backyard, and definitely very useful for vegetable gardens. I do it all the time in the spring. I would turn in crushed leaves from the fall into like a raised bed before I put my new plantings in. So stay away from synthetic mulches. It is very toxic. It will kill your the good guys in the soil because it's often sold as a sustainable product because it comes usually from recycled rubber tires. And it's rubber, so it'll like not only like cook your soil, the good guys in there, it's also going to kill all of them, and then your soil, the whole soil food web thing is not going to do its due diligence to break down the natural nutrients and make it available to the plants. So over time, this is like great. I'm like doing more and more living mulches, like ground cover, perennial. There are like tons of websites where you can put in your zip code or your climate zone or your planting zone and tell them what type of traffic you're looking for, like high traffic, medium traffic, and you can get a listing of ground covers. And over time, I've done a few, and those are like living mulches. So even in a perennial bed, it's like great. You can like put it under your foundation planting. So how to grow beautiful grass. So these are some basic guidelines. So organic lawn care, here's a conventional versus natural. Here, this is an interesting graphic here, like the synthetic system, the roots are not deep enough and they're not able to get the required nutrients from the soil. And here with the natural lawn, the soil goes deep down, it can survive drought better. It can survive like if there's some insect infestation, it can like fight that back better, a lot of good stuff. It's a little hard to manage with the weeds. You have to be patient. Sometimes like aerating the soil every fall will help to relieve compaction, and relieving compaction will help reduce the amount of weeds. This is some examples and guidelines for types of grass. So mixing in the grass is the better approach, meaning you could do a combination of grass depending on your climate zone and the amount of sun exposure. So I have a combination of perennial rye and mostly fescue. It's just a mix. You can get a seed mix and look for a mix. Definitely better than doing a monoculture for a lawn. Same idea here. Here's what I mentioned to the cultural practices to grow an organic lawn. Mowing, and mow it high, like a 3-inch is a good height to maintain. The tall grass also like can absorb nutrients better, and it also helps for like deeper root growth. What else? Dethatching, you don't have to always do dethatching. You can take a section of your lawn and see if it's more than like 2 inches, you'll need to dethatch. I've never had to do that. The one I diligently do at least once in every 2 years is the aeration in the fall. Aeration, seed, and overseed. Keep doing the overseeding. No harm. If you want to aerate, you can do it in the spring and fall. In the spring, it's a little harder for the seeds. You just have to keep up and get the timing right before it gets too hot, but no harm done. All good. Some common pests, again, I've had no issues. I do see all these grubs and bugs in the soil all the time. I just let them be. I've never had a major issue. Here's some nutrient information for organic lawn care. So the pH is the single most important factor affecting the chemistry of the biology of the soil. This is the cycle we talked about, organic fertilizers versus synthetic. The synthetic system, you are feeding the plant. In the organic natural system, you are feeding the soil, and that cycle gets absorbed into the roots of the plant. So you feed the soil and not feed the plant. The idea of compaction I talked about. Organic lawn care. So here's a recap as how to grow beautiful grass. Feed the soil. Leave the grass clippings on. That's something we do as well. If you like 2.5 to 3 inches, it doesn't. We leave it and doesn't look bad even in the peak of summer. If it dries out, it like quickly like decomposes. Seed annually, mow high. Water less. You don't want to be watering often. Just do like once or twice a very like a deep watering, and try to do it in the morning, even in the summer. All right, here are some lawn alternatives to work with. I've never tried moss. This has been one of my wish list to try moss in a shade area. Okay, so here are some examples from my garden. And I've kind of also compiled a list of like notes over the past few years. So this is like the vegetable garden. I have raised beds. Raised beds are great. And make sure to use natural lumber, like cedar is great, untreated. You don't want any pressure treatment. You don't want any sealer because it's your organic vegetable garden. you can read through these when you get this notes, the slide deck. These are just from my experiences, what I've loved about certain plants and stuff like that. And some resources. This is just the architect in me. I have to do a plan for everything. So I start with a vegetable garden plan. It's good to get some planning done because depending on the space you have and what you want to grow, and you can get an idea of spacing. And also important, some plants don't like other plant families. So this information is from this book. So that is important to note. And crop recycling is important. Let me go back to the plan for a second. So, and the taller plants, do them towards the north because they're going to shade the shorter plants, if not. And at least do an alternate, like a 2-year cycle of crop rotation so that the bugs which overwinter kind of get killed, and you don't want to do tomatoes in the same place 2 subsequent years in a row. All right, these are some interesting reading. This is a great book for a really quick read. Fun for kids as well. This is just some information from people in the professionals in the area. Some resources. Yep, so that's the end. I may have gone, I know, pretty fast. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'll put the slide deck. All right, let me see if I can put the slide deck in the chat. So give me 1 second. Let me see. Sorry, I'm trying to see if I can share the slide deck. I think Eileen, I may be having some trouble grabbing the slide deck. Would you be able to email it to folks?
Yes, I could email it to everyone, and I'll also email them a recording.
Okay.
You were trying to put it on into the chat box?
I thought I was able to do that last time. Let me try one more time. Everyone publicly.
Yeah, I mean, it's no problem. You can just send it to me and I'll send it out to everyone.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So whichever way we want, I went pretty fast, I guess. So whichever way we want to do questions, are there questions in the chat, or we can just open it up and just chat about it? That's fine too.
Yeah, I think if anyone wants to just unmute themselves.
Sure.
They could ask a question. I'm pretty sure you can unmute yourself. Okay, Kimberly has a question. Is it better to use native plants?
Definitely. When I plan for a foundation bed, I will first think of scale, like what height of plants I want, and then color. And once I know that, then I look at, okay, what kind of native plant will fit in that area. You also need to pay attention to your microclimate. What I mean by that is, if you like the area might be a perfect area with the number of hours of sun exposure, but you might have another taller plant which could shade your plant. So basically, to answer your question, yes, natives is great, but you just need to do a little research to check your microclimate and setting as well. Any other questions?
Okay. Okay, that looks like all the questions. If anyone thinks of anything else they want to ask Sangeetha, no problem. Just send me an email and I'll get it to her. And
Sure.
she'll be happy to answer, I know.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, well, thank you. I think everyone learned a lot. It was interesting. It's funny, I think this is the third time I've heard pretty much the whole thing. So I'm like, now it's really sinking in now.
Right, I know.
So thank you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for everyone for joining us. And look in our Have a Good Times for more webinars, and hopefully soon we'll start having live events. And Sangeetha might be down at the crack soon enough doing another.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be nice. So everyone have a good night and enjoy the good weather tomorrow.
Yes, likewise, everyone. Enjoy the beautiful week.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.